All right, so here for another episode of Simon Says. You know, the last podcast we did, I was able to talk to you all about access, sort of an introduction of myself. And it was really important to highlight the trajectory that I had to sort of walking in this path of, you know, pursuing this bigger goal. And quite frankly, I remember, I think I said this the last podcast, that I wasn't really thinking about money or success in the type of way that I think about money and success now. You know, I was afraid, I was fearful, and I just wasn't as confident. And I think a lot of that was because of the lack of information that I had. So what I was looking to do is I had developed a relationship with a friend of mine who I had known before going off to law school. And it's crazy that I had this kind of access for so long, but I never really understood the value of that access at that time. And that's just because I wasn't really thinking about money and success in this way that I think of it now. And quite frankly, the shaping of my mindset sort of happened from conversations with my friend who I brought here as a guest here today, Tashima Rembert, who is a broker, and I'll let her introduce herself in just a moment. But it wasn't until I started having these conversations and dialogues with her when I eventually started to think so much bigger. And I think, for instance, you know, she would always try to help me to realize that what I was doing was much bigger than what it was that I was thinking, or what I had access to do was much larger and much bigger than what it was that I thought. So I thought it would be really important and valuable to bring the experience that I had to this platform. So people who also have sort of this idea or this vision for success and vision for more, to understand just how much more reachable it probably actually is. Because I think that people just don't really know. And because we don't know, people, you know, just kind of spin in circles and chase after their tails, or only just hope, right? Just wish that they can do something, or hope that they can do something, but they never actually do it because they don't have access to the information. So today's podcast is really about bringing you to talk about access, so we can just kind of dive into that. Look, and before I begin, I'd like for you to just sort of introduce yourself to the audience.
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
It's your first podcast?
This is my very first podcast.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh, wow. Well, this is going to be a good dialogue.
This is my first podcast. I'm not going to say my first invite, but this is my first podcast.
All right, cool.
So I've been doing mortgages, started with residential mortgages, roughly 20 years now. A little over 20 years now. Started with residential, doing primarily refinances initially, and then just continued to expand, grow. Knowledge is power, just like you were saying. The more you know, the more opportunity leads to access. And each one reach one, teach one.
Right.
And that's what we have to do, and make everybody like readily available, because there's strength in numbers. So The more we talk, the more, you know, everybody becomes more comfortable with their question, and we can proceed from there.
Well, you know, I think what's also important is, because I know you mentioned being a broker, and you mentioned doing brokering for sort of residential and real estate type of deals, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, what you do is so much
broader. Much broader. My primary focus now is on investors. I do residential and commercial for investors. So my portfolio now consists of a lot of people just like yourself that carry investment portfolios that are growing, that are always, you know, looking for that next opportunity, whether that be a debt service opportunity, commercial property, you know, a very diverse portfolio like yourself.
Right. So I remember, because you use a term of art is what I like to call it. you said debt service. And I remember when I first started this process, I was like, debt service, what is that? And I don't know if you remember, but my mind was sort of like a sponge. Like I was asking so many questions. I remember you would use loan to value, and I was like, well, what is that? Or debt service or debt to income. And I was like, what are these things that you're talking about? And I remember just asking questions. And I really do appreciate the fact that you were always, explaining these things. And the way my mind sort of works, I have this way of being able to understand somewhat complicated things as it is. But for some reason, and whenever you talked, it always just kind of clicked, right? Like it just made sense eventually, right? But I do remember those instances where you would talk about things and then I would still not understand. And then something would happen. And I'm like, what the hell is this? He was like, well, Simon, you remember I told you? I'm like, no, I don't remember. Explain that to me again. Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on when we first started doing these deals together. And I remember seeing, at least hearing yourself refer to yourself as a self-employed loan expert, right? Because a lot of the folks who you work with have these diverse portfolios, have very complicated portfolios, and their money isn't the same type of money as just regular folks who may go to work every day and,
Correct.
The money's just different.
That's correct. Self-employed, like you said, I refer to myself as a self-employed loan expert because no two loans are going to be the same. No two borrowers of mine are going to be the same. So everybody is a manually underwritten situation. So I'm going to put together the file in its entirety before it even reaches the underwriter. I can paint a clear picture of who my borrower is before the loan actually leaves my desk. So I know who my borrower is. So if I have to pick up the phone and speak with the underwriter or have to pick up the phone and speak with management, I can identify for them exactly who this borrower is, what the situation is by understanding their business. I will understand their cash flow. By understanding their cash flow, I can understand their deposits. So they have this thing where, everybody want to help to make sure that the flow of income actually fit that particular borrower and their type of business. So they have a thing where we have to identify large and unusual deposits. It's all about making it make sense. And if you have a deposit for this particular borrower and it's the deposits are normally less than $5,000 and they, all of a sudden they have one that's $60,000 and then the deposits take off from there and they're larger, but then they tailor back down, then that warrants an explanation. So me understanding my borrower, the self-employed borrower, there's so many different types of industries for self-employed. You have contract workers, but then again you have business owners, and you have attorneys, then you have doctors, then you have marketing businesses, and they all have different cash flow. So it's me understanding my borrower in order to present that opportunity, whether they're purchasing, refinancing, whether they're building, whether they're doing, of course, building new construction, whether they're purchasing vacant land. I need to be able to paint a picture of what they're doing. So I have to explain their money.
Right. And this is like self-employed loan specialist, particularly an expert, is particularly important because most self-employed individuals, like you've said, all have these very unique, non-conforming type of situations. And most times they don't necessarily qualify for traditional type of products, right?
They don't. So they shy away.
Right.
They either try to do it themselves or they try to conform and make their taxes align so that they can qualify for it for banking.
Right.
And it don't fit.
Right. It don't fit.
It don't fit.
So they out there trying to get Quicken loans and doing it on their own, and it doesn't fit.
It does not fit.
So, and quite naturally, the effect of that is it kind of causes people to be discouraged.
It does.
The moment they think, oh my goodness, I've done all of this. I tried to get this loan. Now I can't get this loan. And now they think that I don't have any ability to gain access to any money. So naturally, it sort of, really stabs them in the heart.
It does.
And it
Dream
discourages,
deferred.
right? It's dream deferred. Now it's time to move on because that didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think the very first thing is it's important for business owners to connect with individuals, or even if it's not a business owner, if it's a person who aspires to have any business at all, to connect with an individual like yourself, right? Who can help really fully understand what it is that their portfolio looks like, their money, their cash flow, to really help conform them to a product that may be non-traditional, to help them get access to the capital that they think that they're not able to reach, right?
That's true. I think another thing is understanding that everyone needs somewhere to stay. So if it's in regards to, or everyone needs somewhere to operate their business. Some people operate their business out of their home, but some people, will need like small office rental spaces to operate their business. Everybody needs, I should say, a place. Right. Everybody needs a place. So we've talked about that, and I think in the past it was we talked about, you were like, in regards to the manufactured homes. You remember we had that conversation?
Right, I do. I was like, who in the hell buying a manufactured home?
No, it
no
was
disrespect for the manufactured home.
Exactly, because I believe in it. And
right.
We were talking about, it wasn't the manufactured home that threw you off, it was the single wide.
Right.
You was like, who can actually live there? And I said, you can rent, people live there. They purchase them specifically
right.
for that.
That was another moment of me just not having a clue.
Just not having a clue. And then there's like, mobile home parks. There's like so many real estate avenues and opportunities where your money is not going to be the same deposit all the time.
Well, what you also used to say to me all the time was, you would say, Simon, there's something for everybody.
There's something for everyone. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think, like it really goes to like this elevated mindset, that there is something for everyone, because there are those folks who, may have this aspiration or this desire to invest, or maybe they want to invest in real estate,
Absolutely.
And they're thinking, well, I want to invest in certain type of real estate, right? But not realizing that maybe based off of your income, your cash flow, there's a different product that you might be able to invest in and still do very, very well and be successful.
Exceptionally well.
Right. So I think that there's this elevated mindset that has to occur. At least that was what my issue was. And I think, again, going back to just this idea that a lot of people don't have the knowledge, and because they don't have the knowledge, they go in and put the vision on the shelf.
I think that also because they don't have the knowledge, they think that they don't have what it takes. They think that there's like this large amount of money that is needed to start.
Well, and that's a great point, right? Because I think I felt the same way at one point, that there was this large amount of money that I needed to start, right? But what do we say to those individuals who, for instance, feel like they have a startup business, or they feel like the cash ain't flowing, or they feel like, I still have to pay my bills at home. I need this money. I'm not in a position where I can scale up and maybe do something different because I need this money. Or they are, for instance, there are a lot of single women who may feel like, well, I don't have that financial support system or that financial backing to go out and take the risk and to take that leap of faith. What do we say to those individuals?
Well, the first thing I'll say is we need to start looking within. It's almost biblical, y'all. We have to look with what we have in our house.
That's right. Bible.
What do we have in our own home? So there's so many situations. Just this year alone, I kid you not, I've done 2 loans. Both of these couples, one of them had a home free and clear, and they were looking to purchase another property, and they weren't even sure how to connect A to B. And they had gone through a mortgage, and they had their property free and clear.
Right.
And now they were looking to purchase an investment property. didn't particularly have the money down for the down payment, but they had the free and clear.
So when you say like got to start with what's in your own house, you don't mean that literally. You mean that figuratively. Like we ain't going in your house and figuring out what we can sell to make a deal happen.
No, we're not going in there to get the flour and the eggs to make the bread like they did in the Bible, but we have equity in our home.
Right.
So we can use that equity and capitalize off of what we have to get what we want. And not all the time do we need to go and take out a loan to make a loan. I don't want to go too heavy too quick, but there's opportunities for cross-collateralization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have free and clear property. It's all about knowledge, like knowing how
to structure the deal.
To structure your deal. You have creative financing. It's so much fun. Like once you get to thinking, like you said, thinking larger, thinking greater.
Right. Well, because like even for me, right, with me, the way I've sort of, and I'm sure you have seen the evolution of my portfolio and how I do deals. There was a time where I was like, all right, I got to get this money and I got to wire this money for closing. And now I'm calling you and I was like, yeah, I don't want to pay nothing.
You were paying everything for cash. You were buying properties, like literally buying properties.
Right. Like Monopoly.
You were buying properties, and I got the deed. I bought this, and I bought this too. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute! Don't do that. You don't have to do that.
Right.
And I think it was we had to talk about it a couple of times.
Right.
Before because you were like on your third one, you were just really out there buying them.
I was spending the money. I was buying them things up. That's right.
So there's opportunity. There's equity in your home. We can use, there's opportunities to use the money that you already have in your home. You don't have to have, the actual liquidity in the bank.
Right.
And then there are financing options for new properties that will allow you to use your property that you already have as leverage.
And you said cross-collateralization. In other words, you're just saying, what does that really mean to the viewers who don't understand what that actually means?
Well, that means if your property is free and clear, so just for round numbers, you have a property that's free and clear and it's worth $250,000. And then you're going to...
Y'all better get the pens and paper.
Purchase a property that's $400,000, and it's an investment property, so you would need about 15% down. So 15% of $400,000, what is that? $60,000. So you would need $60,000 if you were just going to go out and purchase that property. You would need $60,000 as your down payment, and then you would finance the remainder, the $340,000.
Right.
Well, if you have property that is free and clear, then you don't need to have $60,000 liquidity. Even if you have it, we're not going to give it to the purchase transaction.
Right.
You're going to keep it in your account. We'll show that as reserves, and we will use your property that's free and clear as the leverage, as your equitable interest in the transaction. And so that means that we'll cross-collateralize it. They'll put a lien on that property to cover the amount of the down payment that you're not going to bring to the table.
Right. So in other words, this is really just kind of like moving money on paper, not actually moving money through banks.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and I remember like even the building that we're sitting in currently, right? My office, when I bought this building, I purchased the building and I had another property. It wasn't necessarily free and clear because free and clear is one thing, but obviously there's situations where there's still a lot of equity in it, but it may not necessarily be free and clear.
Correct.
So when I did this building, while it was not free and clear, the building that I was using as collateral was not free and clear, but I had a ton of equity in it. So I was able to do this deal by purchasing this building. And again, I said, I don't want to bring money to the closing table. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to buy this property without bringing anything to the closing table. And by the way, I want some money so I can make some renovations. And a lender would give that money because of the equity that is in the collateral that's spread out in the collateral. So, this idea that structuring the deal, is really where the creativity all is, and it's really trying to work through this ideal of putting together a deal in order to make something happen. But I want to say this, going back to that initial question about those people who, for instance, feel like, say for instance, is a single person or a single parent that has this vision, has this idea, but feel like I can't afford to do that. I mean, even if they start in their own house, how does that person sort of be able to get something going to really help get their vision or their goal or dream up off the ground?
There's no dumb question. There's no, how do I say, all questions warrant an answer. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it, because I just know that one of the bars that I was referring to actually inherited the property. So she had never purchased before. So she'd never gone through the process.
Right.
So she had never used
Which I think creates a lot of fear for people as well. Mm-hmm. Right? The fact that people have never purchased the property, mm-hmm. they're like, oh my goodness. And all you ever hear about buying property is scary stuff, right?
Very scary.
Because it takes forever. People have issues. Like you just hear the most horrible things about buying real estate. So in that instance, like you're saying, you had a person who she inherited, never actually purchased. You continue.
She inherited. She lived there for like 13 years. She'd gone through the probate process, and she inherited actually 2 properties from her dad.
Didn't even know what she had.
Didn't know what she. One of them, her uncle, was living in, so he continued to live there. Rented. She was responsible for the taxes and the insurance there because it's hers. And then her and her husband resides at the other one. 2 free and clear properties, but they're small. So they wanted to pursue something a little bit larger for their family. And they'd actually been living in there for 13 years. And she just didn't know how to make the next step. They were even considering, hey, we got 401k. We can take out our 401k, because they had access to more information about removing money from their 401k than their equity. And I'm almost like, how is that possible? Mm-hmm. How do we not? And they're not investors yet. They're
right.
wanting to become investors. So when I say wanting to move into something larger, her husband was like, maybe we can get a duplex or a 4-plex. But this is something they want to purchase. Mm-hmm. But they didn't know how to go about it, so they were willing to even take money out of the 401k.
Right. I think it goes back to people are afraid. They are scared when it comes down to like this whole, for whatever reason. I mean, even as a successful business owner now, I feel like I meet people that I expect would know more about what I know. Mm. And that's deep, because there are people that I'm thinking like they have to know more. Like they got to know more than that. Mm-mm. And they're like inspired by what I'm doing. I'm thinking like I'm just a 39-year-old young G, you know what I'm saying? And they're inspired by me, So when I go out there, I'm doing these deals and I'm putting on, and like people are seeing this, and they're, we talking about old heads that I'm thinking no more, right? And not everybody look like me either.
Oh, no, of course.
Right? You would think, like you're thinking, okay, they have to know more. Mm-mm. And it's almost kind of like this hidden information, mm-hmm. right? Like it's really hidden. Like they don't have a clue, which is what I feel like, why I feel like this platform is so important. That's why we started Simply Simon Properties. Right? When it was time to educate people on real estate, access to real estate, like I started learning all of this stuff and investing. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, people should know more about this. Like we should create a space where people can learn more about this and we give people real information. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it was clear to me that people that should know more, at least that you think would know more, they didn't.
Correct.
Right? So there are those people like in that situation, I think they know more about taking money from a 401k because that's sort of what's pushed on people, right? As opposed to let's creatively put deals together. And look, while this is not necessarily a podcast about real estate, right? I think what I'm trying to do with this podcast is really show how there is a pathway sometimes, right, to creating the access that you need. I think, and everybody's different, right? Because when I started, when you was like, Simon, you got access to this kind of money and you ain't doing X. You remember that conversation? Mm-hmm. And then I remember sitting there and I was listening to you say this and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to spend all my money on that. And then what was your response? Do you remember?
I probably, because I used to have to tell you all the time because you'd be like, where's my money going? I'd be like, Simon, you're not putting your money in Gucci and gold.
That's exactly what you should say.
You're putting your money in real estate. Your money is in your property.
That's what you say. You was like, Simon, you ain't putting money in Gucci and Versace. You're putting money in real estate.
Right.
Right. So, and even now, like I remember calling the CPA one day and thinking, you remember recently I reached out to Ed.
Where's my money?
Oh, where's my money? Where's my money? Where is it at? And he says, Brother Simon, it's on your balance sheet.
It's on your balance sheet.
Right. So, and this is what the last podcast, what I talked about, I told people, I said, look, success is not about what's in the bank.
Correct.
It's not. Mm-mm. It's about what's on the balance sheet. Mm-hmm. It's not about what's in the bank, right? Because in the bank, if you're doing money the right way, first off, you shouldn't have all the money in the bank anyways.
Correct.
If you're doing money the right way.
Correct.
Right? Your money should be working for you some type of way.
Absolutely.
Right? So this whole idea that people don't know is the reason why they aren't doing it, was the reason why I wanted to create sort of this platform. But I still wanted to sort of bring it back to some of the things that you used to recall me doing, like in this process, right? Because I remember I just didn't understand, right? I just didn't have a clue what it was. And then I tried to bring one of my family members in.
But you had aspirations though. Like you knew that real estate was the way to grow your money. You knew that. Right. You knew that much.
Right.
But using the money to expound upon and grow.
Right. That was what I don't think I fathomed and imagined.
Yes.
Like even now, sitting back and I'm like, I don't necessarily have to have the money in the bank. Like right now, my equity spread over my property. How real estate wealthy I can be.
Do you remember, like, we had a conversation about, we were already working on the smaller investment stuff. Mm-hmm. And I suggested that you sell your house. And then you said, you go over to my house and talk to my wife. And then I said, well, okay. But you thought that I wouldn't take the challenge because we hadn't met. I went there and you weren't even there. It was just Camille and Isaiah. And we talked about the value, just the value, because at that time you guys were talking about adding a pool.
Right.
And we talked about the value that from just what you had in your property from the time you purchased it up until that point there.
Right.
And it was just having the knowledge of that, you knew that you can take this over here, put this pot over here, and you can grow it 3 times.
Right. Like I understood this idea that real estate is the path to financial freedom. Mm-hmm. Right. Like real estate truly is the path. And I say that to everybody over and over again. Real estate is the path to financial freedom. It is. And I know some other people like to invest in, IRAs and stocks and mutual funds.
And all that's good.
And that's good, right? Mm-hmm. That's good if that's what you want to do. But I have heavily invested in the real estate.
Yes.
And I think that for me, it has worked.
And been successful, very successful.
I've been very successful with it because I can literally take any property and go and buy another one.
This is true.
Like any property. I can take any property and go buy another one because I have enough of it, right? And enough equity spread in order to do that.
This is true.
Right. So, like, for instance, the deal the other day, because again, and there has to be this, you have to have this big business acumen or this, success in this or common sense in this to know when a deal isn't a good deal. I remember when I started to get really confident in the process with understanding the deals, understanding money, that when you would send, not necessarily you, or when someone else would send me a deal and I'm thinking about this deal, I'm like, well, I don't know if I really like that. And I don't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, I started to understand what deals made sense versus which ones did not make sense. And then I started to challenge folks. And I think people, you remember, I used to say that I would talk to brokers and they would be like, you could tell, they could see they would get kind of cower down and get intimidated the moment they could tell that I understood the deal probably better than they did. Right?
You also, in your deals, require a little bit more of margins. Your margins are different because you're going to do everything from the roof to the ceiling to the floor. Like, you're going to completely Simonize your property. Everybody's not going to do that from the very beginning, Right. Your first fix and flip, if you make, 10% and you learn, you still did well, right. But if you make, 30%, you still did well. It's about, your time invested. You want to get in and out of there in a reasonable time. And you want to, of course, you want to make money. And you want to, learn in the process because no two deals are going to be the same. I wish we could break this down and do like different little topics, different little, like if we could talk about a little bit about, commercial deals because like for business owners, commercials, everybody's so, they just want to go and rent something just to get their product out there to everybody. They don't know that there's so many opportunities out there now for commercial real estate, and commercial, real estate shopping plazas, for you to purchase your own shopping plazas or for you to purchase property as zone commercial and even get up to 90% loan to value. There are so many opportunities for business owners right now. I think for business owners, small business owners, new business owners, what we need more, people need to be aware of is that there are opportunities for new business owners. Like, a lot of people don't think that the capital is available. There is working capital for new business owners. There are opportunities for new business owners to get loan financing, like for their equipment or for their vehicles, or like in your case, like the coolers and all the different things that are necessary to operate your business, to make it functional. There are loans available for that.
Right. But I think and I think that's why I'm trying to, again, that's what I want to sort of highlight and emphasize. Because I think a lot of people, because again, we've talked about real estate funding, right? And what that looks like and how that create access, not necessarily real estate funding in the sense that people should go out and buy real estate. What we've talked about with real estate is how people can utilize their real estate to leverage it to get access to money they need in order to place money in other things that they have this aspiration or this vision to do. So, but like you're saying, there's obviously other ways to utilize money and to get money. You may when you're starting this business, maybe you are able to start something, but then you go and get some sort of equipment loan to get your business up off the ground. Or maybe you go and you get some other sort of working capital to get the business up off the ground. I think that's why I was asking originally, what do we say to those people who feel like, I need the money that I have here now in order to pay the bills? How do those people get something off the ground that they vision or aspire to do?
They have to be able to, the first thing that's going to open the door for a lending opportunity for you is to be able to explain your dream, explain your aspirations. if you can tell the lender or the bank, if you can present what the end goal is, how long it's going to take, to build it out, what you need to be functioning inside of that business, whether it's an ice cream company, funeral home, a laundromat, whatever it is. All of that requires working capital in addition to equipment loans, and it may or may not be shaped out in your own space. So you may be a place that you're leasing, but you still need the working capital for it. But can
people who, for instance, are paycheck to paycheck or feel like they're paycheck to paycheck, have a vision, have a goal, and still go out and be able to get access to money?
They can.
They can.
They can.
Unequivocally.
Now, I'm not going to say that if you have a bunch of derogatory credit, or if you have over credit utilization and you haven't shown yourself to be credit worthy, that they're going to give you $500,000. But I will say that there are a lot of second chance opportunities out there, and even third chance opportunities out there, where they will give you working capital. Of course, the rate won't be the same as somebody who presents themselves and show themselves credit worthy.
Right. We ain't talking about like no merchant cash advances where they paying 1,000%.
What is that?
Ain't there those merchant things where they give the people the money and then they take out? She's like, what is that?
I don't deal with no hanky panky. I don't know what that. I don't know no.
I was saying, and then like the merchant things where they give people money through the merchant cash advances and they pay like some ridiculous amount of interest rate on it.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't recommend, and I don't think that would be like, that wouldn't be something that like me. So anybody with a licensed professional is not gonna send you somewhere to put you in a position that's going to jeopardize your business.
Right.
It sounds like what you're saying is they're going to be deteriorated and implode in no time.
Right, because they can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
Right.
No, absolutely not. That's what I was going to say. You're not going to be able to. They're not going to. If you show that, that you need a little bit more. What do they call those things? When you need a little bit more protection, a little bit more guards. When you're bowling, those things that come up on the side, the barriers. The barriers. You need a little bit more guidance. Then there are loans out there, so they don't give it to you all at once. So they'll give you, they'll say, hey, you're approved for $50,000 in working capital. But, we are only going to marginalize it out to you. So where, you'll have access to X amount every 8 weeks, and they get an opportunity to look at your payment history for the first, or maybe every 90 days. And they look at your payment history because you have to show, that your ability to repay.
Right.
So, I don't know about.
Well, it's access. I think what I'm trying to just make sure I'm clear is access to capital much easier for those people who have the vision, have the goal, aspiration, than what they really think. Because like I said earlier, a lot of people try to conform to what the banks are looking for, right? Which most of these individuals probably don't fit within that mold. And the moment they go and they apply and they're turned down, it's dream deferred, moving on to something else for now. And then they never get that thing that they have the vision for up off of the ground. So what I'm saying is there, because that's really what it's about. Like there are a lot of people who are sitting at home, who go to a job 9 to 5 and are thinking like, man, I really want to get this thing off the ground, but I just don't have the access.
You can't be afraid of humble beginnings. You can't be afraid of humble beginnings. You have to look at like, there are, being able to start, small, and then see yourself grow, and like you'll grow exponentially just by being attentive to what you have, and you learn a lot in that process too. I'm not saying that you want to go from 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 18. You may go from 6 to 12, you may go from 12 to 18, 18 to 24. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you continue to grow, but you can't be afraid to start, selling your product out of your home. You can still get working capital for opportunities like that.
Can you?
Yes, you can. Depending on what your vision is.
And this is why brokers, I guess, are so important, because the brokers know the different products versus going to just your traditional bank. So, it's really about access, and like I said, I think, and I don't know why, I don't understand why for us, it's so hard to elevate the mindset. Sometimes people just hard-headed as hell. They don't want to listen.
Sometimes.
That's really what it is. Because, why do we have to try to force people to elevate the mindset? And I know it's difficult. I'm not by no means stretch of the imagination am I trying to make it seem as if business or this ideal of starting a new business is easy, because it ain't easy.
It's not.
It ain't easy at all, right? That's the first thing. It's hard to have your own business. It's hard to be responsible for everything, because once you get the money, there's a whole lot of other stuff you got to be a steward over.
That's true.
Right? It's not just, I got the money, now let me go ahead and just do whatever. There's still a lot of stuff that you have to manage. So, while I'm not trying to make it seem as if it's easy, I do want to make sure that the audience sort of have a good understanding that at least the access a lot of times is much more reachable and closer than what we think it is.
Access is attainable, and although it's not easy, it's rewarding. It can be very rewarding, especially when you link up with someone that is going to actually go to bat for you. Even if, like I said, there is a credit-worthy issue, if you're willing to work on it, if you're willing to go ahead and put in the effort to rebuild, your credit, and you start small. It's kind of like with subprime lending. With subprime.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Subprime lending is like, say, for instance, where borrowers are not able to borrow money as conventional borrowers. They have, say, for instance, if their credit score is less than a 640. So then there are loan options for them to borrow, and purchase home, real estate, and refinance their properties, although they don't have the traditional 680, 700 credit score that, conforming A paper normally require them to have. So starting there with subprime lending, you're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate, but it gives you access. And once you have the access, you do the work. You still got to do the work in regards to, increasing your credit to develop, your score, and you'll continue to build up not only your personal score, right, but your business score.
You made a good point just a moment ago, because I remember one of my relatives or friend or someone saying to me one time before, I said, I buy these properties. I'll go and get the property as an investment. I'll use private equity. And I'm paying 14%. That 14%, that's crazy. I was like, it's short term. These are short term loans, and they're interest only. But again, there's this ideology that, again, for instance, whoever told us we should be debt free? Because we've been learning that for a long time. That
Dr. Ramsey.
Huh? Like debt free. In fact, I saw somebody posted something the other day online. It was nobody I knew or was related to. Just something came up in my feed. The man was crying because he was debt free. And I'm thinking, like, now it's time to go put that money to work, brother. Right? And go get some more debt. But there's this idea that, people, again, because they don't understand how to use the money, because they don't understand the value of the money. They don't understand using other people's money, not in a, nefarious way or anything like that. But, the business concept, an investment concept of using other people's money and paying interest rate on it. These people sometimes think that don't make any sense.
Well, if you look at it like this, just for sake of one transaction of yours, where you purchased the property in 7 days for $106,000, or it was either 106 or 116, and then the property, by you being able to purchase it in 7 days, you were able to purchase it as cash. This was when the market was actually a seller's market. Mm-hmm. So you needed to purchase that property, and you need to purchase it fast. Otherwise, there's 6 other deals coming right behind you, and it's gonna continue to grow and grow and grow. In regards to people looking for opportunities to purchase something. So now you just eliminated your competition by coming in there and paying, like you said, 14% on, say, $125,000, because you would have rolled in, your closing costs and everything, so you don't bring money in, because you're going to use your money in order to, rehab the property. So you don't want to bring your money to closing.
Right.
So you purchase the property, say for say it was 116, and all in closing costs you're 125. However, you are using your money to do the rehab, so you add the closing costs to the transaction. Now, at that point, what do you have? A monthly payment of what, $1,400 a month?
Right.
And you keep that for 6-7 months.
Right.
And you turn right back around and sell it after you've put the money in.
Right. So in other words, the access.
So that's $1,400 times that 7-8 months. But then you put $50,000 in, and then Arden Park, you turn around and sold it for $285.
Right.
You gotta listen to the beginning of the story as closely as you listen to the end.
Right.
So when you start with the 14%, you're gonna lose so many people.
Yeah.
You gotta listen just as intently.
Right.
with the information for the beginning and the end. There was a huge earning.
Right.
In Arden Park, I don't even know why you did the open house, but I remember you did the open house and it sold in a day.
Right. Well, that's because I Simonized it.
You really did. Well, you Simonized them all. But.
Right. But you make a good point. You got to go in and you got to be willing to pay that, higher interest rate initially. Maybe not everybody does,
and you don't have to anymore. Like now, your name is as such, so you don't pay that anymore.
But initially, you might have to do that. Mm-hmm. For those people who are looking to do some startup with something, mm-hmm. you may have to pay that higher interest rate initially. And again, we ain't talking about 1,000% like merchant cash advances. We saying you might have to pay a little bit more money mm-hmm. in order to get the product that it is that you are trying to get into. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into it, now you got you have the property or whatever it is that creates the access mm-hmm. in order for you to now make a pathway and a trajectory that's upwards for you to ascend. Right?
It's true.
Right. So there's this. But so all of this kind of goes back to this idea that there has to be this elevated mindset, mm-hmm. But how do we encourage our community to elevate their mindset in this process? Because again, I think it comes back to the same thing. What people don't understand and what people don't know,
they're afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
But with real estate, it's tangible. We're not selling a piece of land in the Virgin Islands, it's not a scam. And I know everybody, my God, you getting 10, 20 calls a day. Right. Everything is a scam. But real estate is something tangible. A deed is tangible. Like you have title insurance, you're protected. I would say start with your question, write the vision, make it plain. If you understand what you're doing, what you're selling, what your goal is, it's either going to be sales or service. Your business will either be sales or service. So you understanding enough about your business in order to present your vision to, someone like myself, hand in hand, we will get to the next step, and that's acquiring the financing that you need in order to make your business, grow and to be lucrative.
When you started because you and I have now known one another like 10 years, a little over, like over 10 years. It's because it was before I went to law school. It's like 16 years. You was a baby broker when I met you.
It's been as long
as like 15 years because I've been practicing 10.
At least 15.
At least
probably a little bit more.
Right. So if you've been brokering for 20, look, and again, I didn't really realize what you knew at that point in time, right? But you've seen the growth and the evolution of what it is that I've been able to do. And I'm telling you, like, I know people probably be thinking it can't be real.
It's real.
They think it can't be real. They think it can't be real. Like, he got to be scamming somebody. I mean, they think he got to be doing something wrong.
He'll call you 10, 20 times, but he's not scamming.
I ain't scamming. No, ain't taking nothing from nobody.
Nobody.
Ain't hurting nobody.
Nobody.
Ain't doing nothing nefarious.
No.
Just out here doing it the right way. All right, because now she vouching for me, right?
It's readily available to each and every one.
Right. But the difference was, I mean, maybe you could tell me, what do you think that my difference was, for my scaling and my success in being able to understand how to use money better? Like, what was it as a mentor to me? What was it that you believe was causing it to click?
Asking questions and your ability to listen and learn, the absorption of the information and just, being open to, because there's no two situations have ever been the same. And so, of course, just when you think you got it, there's something else to learn. Like there's this came about in this deal. Oh, now we're going to look at vacant land. Oh, now we're going to switch to commercial. Oh, now we're going to, we're going to look at, short-term investments. Now we're going to look at new construction. Oh, now we're going to build funeral homes. Oh, now we're going to build apartments. Like it's an evolution.
Right.
And so it's just...
Because recently we were talking about something new, and that's the private equity thing. Like becoming a private equity. I mean, that kind it's almost kind of thinking, again, this is another moment where the mindset is elevated. I'm like, well, hold on. I've invested all my money in the real estate, but when I started hearing what private equity is and how private equity works and how these guys are getting 14, 15, 16, 17, 18%.
Allowing their money to work for them.
While they're golfing, every day, like chilling out, having a great time.
This is true.
They put $3 million in, 19% a year on $3 million. And they just keep adding more money and getting the bank to give them more lines of credit to add to their line so they can keep now using the bank's money to make more money. Like once I started thinking like that, I'm like, man, how can I get into private equity? Right? So to your point, there's sort of this evolution. I remember when we first started talking about this, I'm trying to figure out, well, how I'm going to do that? And now I'm like, how can I go get $6 million?
Yeah.
That is a big evolution, right? In a short period of time.
Not for you to get $6 million. You can get $6 million, but for you to get $6 million just for you to lend, to do something that you never done before.
Right.
Because that's the first thing that you always say, well, but I've done business, but not that business.
Right.
And so it's always, the learning of the new opportunity, being able to sell it, being able to present it.
Right. Well, there's also this thing, Tashima, that people sit back and they watch your success, right? And they're thinking like, man, I want to be, if he can do it, then I can do it. If she can do it, then I can do it.
They don't want to go through it though.
Well, that's part of it, right? But for those people who are sitting back thinking if they can do it, I can do it, how do we reconcile for those people, the trajectory or the time frame to ascend? Because again, like I talk about on the last podcast, and what I always say is sometimes people aren't necessarily willing to put the effort in and the time in. And if you want to be successful, you got to be willing to do what other people are trying to talk you out of. You got to be willing to do what other people are sitting back looking at you like, you finna do all that, right? So everybody has a different trajectory. Not everybody has the same pathway to success. You know, again, I've been doing this now for 10 years, but how do we reconcile it for those folks? Because some people get discouraged the moment something ain't going the way they want. Dream deferred. I done went and I'm talking to Tashima. I done went and I done talked to Simon, and I tried and nothing came of it. And now, you know what? That's back on the shelf again. I'm hoping all over again. How do we reconcile that for those people?
Safe space. It has to be like a place of like, nobody's gonna have, when it comes to your dream. I may have all the answers when it comes to your financing, but your dream, you gotta have a safe place. You've gotta guard that. You know what I'm saying? What do they say? You gotta protect that at all costs.
Right.
And you gotta be able to sell it on a dime. You never know when and where, you know, the opportunity to develop and grow your dream will present itself.
Right.
So you gotta, you know, have to have a safe space for it, and don't be hard on yourself. You know what I mean? We have to be willing. Take it easy. I have to tell myself that all the time. Be nice to Tashima.
Right. You gotta be nice to yourself.
You have to be nice to yourself.
Right.
And ask the questions. Stop holding the questions inside. The questions may help me and you. Ask the question. Let's go.
Right, but people sit back all the time and they're thinking like, man, how did they do that? Or they're doing it, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that's a real thing for people.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
Wait.
right. Because I remember, like, but there was this time, and I said in the last podcast, and I'll say it again. I'll tell everybody over and over again. There was this moment where I realized I was kind of green. Like, I didn't realize I was just minding my business, and I didn't really realize that social media was such a powerful tool, right? That people were being, and this is why I'm glad you're here, and you know my money, you know my business, right? So you can tell them a little bit of my business, not all of it, but you know that what I am doing is for real, right? Like, it's not made up, it's not fake, it's not this, you know, doing it for the gram. We not doing all that. Like, it's for real. And I think what I'm saying is people sit back sometimes and they watch other people. And for those people who are in the audience who are actually sitting back thinking like, man, I really wish that I could do that, but I'm hoping to have that same trajectory that Simon has had in this. How do those people sort of, you know, not get discouraged in this idea that it may not happen as quickly?
It may not. You have to start. We have to start. We have to put one foot in front of the other and start. And nobody is going to be able to sell your dream like you, because the passion, you know what I mean? You should be able to, you know, share the passion for what you're trying to develop like no one else.
Right.
And it should come across to me as such that I can take it from you and I can present it and get you exactly, you know what I'm saying, the opportunity that you need. Be confident in what you're trying to do. Trust yourself in that you can do it. Believe in yourself, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So what goals do you have as a self-employed loan expert? What goals do you have for the folks that you interact with, for, you know, helping them to, again, transcend their mindset into another place with respect to thinking larger, elevating their thought process in order to really get out there and start doing this and trusting themselves and being confident in that process?
Most of the time I'm asking what's next, because once I find out what was holding them back in the first place, it was nothing for real. Like, you know what I mean? It was something simple that I'm able to help them with. And I'm grateful for it. Like, I'm able to help them. So I always try to find out what's next. So after, you know, you're able to get the money, or you know, after the grand opening, or, you know, after the trucks are on the road, like, what's next?
Right.
You know, where do we go from there? So I want to know, like, how you want to grow your business. Like you said, I want to. Initially you were renting your law practice. You was like, I want to purchase my own law practice location downtown.
Right.
And then, you know,
I almost kind of forgot about that, but that's true.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm gonna grow the funeral home. And I was like, what do you mean, like grow the funeral home? You was like, multiple locations of the funeral home.
Right.
And I said, so we're looking for other locations that are operable. And then you was like, it really doesn't matter. I just want other locations.
Right.
And so that didn't box you in.
Mm-hmm.
So you could take a daycare and turn it to a funeral home. You could take a funeral home and turn it to a funeral home. Like,
right.
It was just me understanding the vision.
Right. So
now I can walk it out. So now, like, another person, you could call them and be like, hey, I found another funeral home. And they'll be like, what's wrong with this guy? But I understand the vision.
What the hell wrong with him?
But I hate call somebody just called me, want to see them in their funeral home. I mean, it really does happen, guys. Like, it happens. Right. And so it's like, I understand the vision, because guess what? I ask, what's next?
Right.
What's next? And we talked about, like you said, we talked about lending money, private equity, how to make your money work for you. We just understanding. So if I understand my self-employed borrower, then they can feel confident and reassured that Tashima understands my vision, so she's going to be able to help me execute.
Right. So, you know, I'm sure everybody who has tuned in is probably wondering, because every time we are educating people, everybody, like most times when I go somewhere and I'm on the platform and I'm a part of the panel or something like that, everybody's waiting at the end to talk to Simon, right? But when we do these platforms, I think that everybody is waiting to end to figure out, how in the hell can I get in touch with Tashima, right? So, of course, it's important, I think, that you tell the audience how they can get in touch with you, because I'm sure they're going to have questions.
Reach out to Simon.
Oh, no, don't send them to me. No, you tell them how to reach you.
I'm on Instagram at Your Florida Mortgage Lady. I'm on Snapchat. I don't have a Facebook page. But yeah.
You got Instagram?
I do.
What'd you say it is on?
Your Florida Mortgage Lady.
I'm sorry. I think I was confusing the TikTok.
Or is it Your Mortgage Lady?
You're going to have to figure this out ahead of time.
It's Your Florida Mortgage Lady.
Okay. Your Florida Mortgage Lady.
Reach out to Simon.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Look, so Tashima, I want to just say thank you. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, but I appreciate you coming to share the platform with me to talk to the audience just about, again, access, right? Mm-hmm. How important and how reachable access really truly is, right? Because I think what we've said and over again here tonight is people sometimes will defer their dreams, defer their ambition, defer their hope, simply because they feel like they've tried to walk through a door once before and things just didn't align. You know, I tell people over and over again that I never walk through doors that I don't have two things. And the first thing is I need to have grace. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is I need to have favor.
That's true.
I don't walk through doors where it's too hard for me to walk through them. And I don't walk through doors that don't open when I approach them, right? Mm-hmm. And that is literally a mindset, because if they don't align, grace and favor, then it is not the door for me to walk into. And you got to be okay with the no.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with the sometimes
it's protection.
Right. Sometimes this just isn't the right deal or the right time, right? And there's this intellectual maturity that you have to have in this process. So I appreciate you coming to share your experience and to tell these jokers truly who I am. Because I'm telling you, I know they be trying to figure out what Simon got going on. And
there's no drugs involved.
None of that going on. I'm out here working, doing it the legit way. But I also have really awesome mentorship, folks that I can call to ask any question about any deal at any time. I might call you 10 times, but I can call and ask questions about the deals to make sure, and I understand it, right? So I appreciate you coming to speak with the audience. Look, it's always good to talk to my audience about, business. Again, when I started this podcast, it was important that we did this to make sure that we created a space, right, where we could share knowledge, share experience, and really help folks to cultivate and dream bigger, to elevate the mindset. Because the bottom line is, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people desire or aspire to have some level of success, higher level of success. And people, it's nothing wrong with sitting back, looking at people who you admire be successful and thinking, man, I really wish that I could be as successful as that individual. That's a positive thing, but I realize through my own experience that sometimes that feels harder than what it may actually truly be. And again, by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that business and ownership and entrepreneurship is easy, because it's not. If you want it, you got to want it better than you want to breathe, and you got to work your butt off. Last night I was up working till 5 o'clock in the morning while everybody else is getting their beauty sleep, and I still got up at 8:30 for court. So I'm saying that to make the point that you have to you have to dream, you have to dream big, you have to chase after the goals, but you have to be serious. And if you're listening to this podcast, then I'm confident, or at least feel confident, that you are at least attempting to elevate your mindset to another level, so that way you can go and ascend, right? Of course, look, if y'all have questions, you want to reach me, you can reach me at Simon Says on social media, across most of my platforms, or just search by my name, Ortavius Simon. And then, of course, if you all need to reach me for that legal advice, you can always contact the Simon Law Group. Go on our new website, check it out, www.simonlaw.group. It is a banging red website, looks really, really nice. We've done some recent changes to it. But again, we are doing this for you all. So continue to tune in, listen in, and thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.